Hi there, Jonny here from JonnyLipshamStudios.co.uk. Welcome to Studio One 6.2. So in this video, we are going to go over a not in order list of my favorite features of Studio One 6.2. There will be an accompanying live stream which will happen tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time, in which I will go over some of the other features so we can take a bit more of a deep dive. But this is just going to give you an overview of my favorite ones, and we're going to move through these fairly quickly, but the video will be time stamped, so you'll be able to go and review different things at as many times as you want as we go through the video. All right, so let's dive straight into it. And we're going to start with some of these that are actually, they're really nifty. So I think that's what I will call this little collection of features here. These are nifty features. Glad that we have them, and they're nice and simple to get your head around. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is the dual polarity for a stereo channel in the mixer. Now, if you're not seeing these, click on the wrench, go to input controls. Make sure this button is checked. If you have a different audio interface or you're using a Series 3 mixer, you may well have some different controls at the top here to what I am showing. I'm using the Studio 1824C, and these are the input controls that I have available to me. The gain controls and the polarity controls as well. So on a stereo channel like this Mai Tai, for example, if I click on any one of these polarity controls, now both will be engaged. If there is a situation where I only want to flip one side rather than the other, then if I hold Shift and click which one I want to flip or reverse, then I can do that. I can control these individually with Shift. But otherwise, the default now is that they are linked, which is very cool. I like this little feature. It is number one in the nifty features list so far. All right, so let's move on to something else that is, I think, extremely cool, and I'm glad that this has been added. We go up to the top toolbar here. You'll see that there is a new button that's been added. I have it engaged at the moment, and this is the auto zoom. Yes, we finally have auto zoom in Studio One for the first time, and I love this feature. I wasn't sure whether I would, but I do. Now, if I click and hold it, this little flyout menu will appear. And this gives you some different options of auto zoom. So you can control it so that the auto zoom works only vertically, or works only horizontally, or does both. And in this case, this would be auto zoom full. I usually set it to auto zoom full because I just like the control that it gives you. To demonstrate, I am going to open and close the mixer and look at these tiny little tracks. These are the tracks for this song. Now, when I close the mixer, boom, they expand to full size, and I have a good size of all of the waveforms, and I can see the transients nice and clearly. Notice also how the horizontal zoom is. All the contents of the song are fitting inside this arranger view here. So if I close the browser, see, it expands that little bit more, and it gives you a little bit more horizontal zoom. If I open the inspector as well, notice how everything still fits, but it's just that little bit more zoomed in. This is a very, very nifty feature, and I like using it this way because when I have the mixer view open, I'm not focusing on the events particularly. I'm doing mixing things over here. Don't need to do any editing in the events. But if I want to go and fix something, I can just I can close the console and have this view open, and I can go and do whatever I need to do in the events. This is really cool. I like this a lot. All right, keeping it this way for now. The other thing that I think is also very nifty is now the end marker. When you have your start and end markers set, the end marker now has this option where you can turn it into a stop marker. People have been asking for this for ages, including myself. so that the end marker actually, you know, the song just kind of ends and the cursor just stops at that point, rather than having to make a separate stop marker, which is what we've had to do in the past. So if I right click this end marker, now we've got this option here, stop at marker. So if I check this, with the loop not engaged, when we get to the end marker, it should stop. Which it did very nicely, stopped. And it's not counting anymore. So that is perfect. Now, I don't want that engaged for this particular song. But I really think that that is a very handy little feature to have. And as I said, lots of people have been asking for this one for a long time. All right, we're going to flip over to another song so I can show you the next one. So we're going to select this song over here. And this one is also pretty nifty. What I've got here is I've got this Fender Rhodes track here. Okay, it's a little bit cosmic and all of that. I don't want to send you all to sleep, so I'm not going to play it anymore. But notice how this event has been chopped into 3 bits. Now, what we can do now is, let's say I'm happy with the editing I've done to the gain in each one of these events, and I want to crossfade between them all, but rather than just kind of clicking on the first one, pressing X, the next one, pressing X, the next one, pressing X, what we can do now is we can range select them all, and we can crossfade by pressing X, and now the crossfades appear. So this is really neat, especially if you've got lots of events where you've got, you've cut different events up into pieces, you've got event effects on different portions, or you've done some volume automation on different portions, and you want to crossfade them all at once. You can certainly do that now. You could do a whole range of all of your events. You could select all of your events in your entire song and crossfade all the cuts with one click and one button push. It's that easy. It's a very, very nifty little feature. All right, so in this particular song that I've got open now, we're going to look at some of the note editor features that have been added. So one of the first ones is we have note colors already. So it defaults to setting the note colors by pitch, which is what we have here. All of these notes are of a different pitch and they are a different color. So if I set this one to this new option here called scale. Now this only works when there is a scale set. And to do that, you set the filter. So you check this button here. And if I change this to, let's say, natural minor, now you'll notice that we have some different colors. We've got 2 colors, in fact. We've got blue and we've got red. Blue means the note belongs to the scale. Red means it doesn't. Okay, so that's what red means. So E does not belong to the natural minor scale, nor does A or B. But if I change this filter back to major, now they are all blue. If I change this to Phrygian, now you'll notice that E no longer belongs, neither does D or A or B. In fact, the only note that belongs is G. That's because we've chosen this Phrygian scale, and Studio One is smart enough to know what notes in the key of C belong to that scale, that particular scale. All right, so these notes don't belong. Let's go back to major, and now they're all blue again. So this is a really handy feature if you are working in a particular scale in a particular song. For example, let's say you are working in Mixolydian mode, for example. Or Dorian mode. Let's put Dorian mode in here. Now, you'll notice in this case, E and B don't fit. They don't belong. Okay, because E flat is the note that should belong, and B flat is the note that should belong. Okay, so these notes don't fit. That's why they are marked in red. Let's go back to major again, and now they're all blue again. So this is a nice handy feature. for making sure that you know what notes belong and what notes don't belong. So if you're entering notes, and let's say we are working in Dorian mode, and let's say we enter, I've clicked on the wrong thing. I meant to click on that. Let's say we enter this note here. Now that's going to fit, okay? But if I grab this, notice I now cannot do the C sharp. It won't let me. I can only enter notes which belong. When this is set, I can only enter notes that actually belong to the scale. This is really, really handy. It means I cannot enter a note that's incorrect. It's always going to be blue. But if I have this switched off, and I have entered notes that don't belong, then they will show up red. This is interesting because when we say don't belong, it doesn't mean that they are necessarily wrong notes. They just don't belong to that scale. So they could be chromatic passing notes, in which case they sound good, they just don't belong to that particular scale. So that's a useful little feature. Okay, let's move on to another very, very cool feature if you are writing notation. And I'm actually going to undo that note there. So let's close this guy off. I'm going to double click again. This time I'm going to go to the score view. Now, this is very, very cool. So I've now got this document open, and this has got some words for this particular song. And so what I'm going to do with this particular song is I am going to copy and paste these lyrics under these notes, and they are going to be automatically distributed. This is a wonderful new feature. So the first thing I need to do is get the lyrics tool out and set it on the first note. And then I need to go back to my document, and then I need to copy these. So Command or Control C to do that. And then on this first note here, I Command or Control. And now all of those lyrics are automatically distributed to each of the notes. So when I play this, you can now see, if I go back to the pointer, you can now see that each one of these words is under a note, and it's done that automatically. That is very, very cool. Just by simply copying and pasting lyrics from a text file or a Word document, or if you use LibreOffice or whatever it is that you use for writing lyrics, you can now copy paste directly from that document into the score view, and it will distribute to the notes. Now, in this particular case, I've made it pretty simple for it to do it, just to show you how good it looks when it does it, by using just quarter notes. But if you've got more complex rhythmic values, or you've got several notes for a word that you have in mind, like a little bit of melisma, for example, it will work, but you will have to drag and drop some of the words around to make them fit, because it will automatically just put a word under a note, okay? And it may not necessarily put the word under the particular note that you want. It will just put them under a note so that they fit, so that every note has a word distributed to it. So that's how that feature works. I really like it. It's really, really cool. All right, so we're also going to look at the arrow tool, and I need to go back over to the note editor for this. This is great. I like this a lot. So you'll notice that when we are over a note, that the mouse automatically turns into these different tools. So we have the knife tool, pointer, and then we have this cool little tool for velocity. Now, this is great. This is the default tool, and we've had this for ages. And this is now known as the extended pointer toolset. You can now change this to just basic by clicking on the pointer and holding, and then the flyout menu appears. And if you select basic, now those tools don't appear, and all you can do is move or resize a note. So if that's the only functionality you need, you can just set this to basic, or you can have the extended tool and kind of be able to change the velocities. Like we're used to, or, you know, if you want to split the note, you can do. So that is very, very useful. I like it. Useful little function. All right, so we'll move on. We'll open another song to do the next set of very cool features. All right, so we've gone back to the vocoder song, and this next set of nifty features, and these are really, really nifty. We're going to start with possibly the niftiest of all, and that is in the effects tab of the browser. We now have this new folder called Event Editors. Now these are where all the event effects that you have, such as Melodyne, and you might have Vocaline, and you might have some others, that is where you'll now find these. Now I only have Melodyne, so I can only show you how this works with Melodyne. Now, ordinarily the way we have used Melodyne in Studio One is via the ARA protocol created by Presonus in conjunction with Ceremony, probably about 10 years ago. But here's the cool thing that we can now do. What you've always been able to do is right click and choose Edit with Melodyne, or do Control or Command and M, and that opens Melodyne. Now, that is all cool, and you can still do it that way if you want. But what you can now do is you can grab Melodyne from here and you can drag and drop it. Now, the interesting thing here is it doesn't add it as an effect to the inserts of the mixer view when you do that, which is what used to happen if you dragged and dropped Melodyne onto a track. It would just use it as an insert. Well, what happens now if I do the same thing? Watch this. The Melodyne editor opens as you would normally expect with Command or Control and M. Now, with the inspector open for this vocal track here, notice how in the event effects section we have an insert for Melodyne. Now, if I had other event effects such as a delay or a reverb, or something that was a special effect for a particular word or something, you would see this in a separate section underneath where it says Melodyne. Because the event effects for Melodyne are now separate from event effects for other things, such as event effects for a delay or for a reverb or something like that. Anything that it uses ARA has its own little insert bay in Studio One 6.2. This is incredibly useful and incredibly handy, and it means that it is easy to work with. And it also means that it uses more and more of the drag and drop workflow that we are all used to in Studio One. It is very, very cool. I like this feature a heck of a lot, and I think for me this is going to be my preferred way of working with Melodyne in ARA going forward. I really like this a lot. All right, so these next ones are nifty, but maybe not entirely sexy, unlike that one. That one is a particularly very, very cool thing. So we're going to close out that, and we're going to close out that. All right, so if you are a member of Presonisphere, or as it now is known as Studio One Plus, when you click on your avatar here, you will notice that, as before, we had some notifications, but now we have an extended set of notifications. So now in the notifications center, This will include notifications when somebody likes or replies to a post that you have made or a post that you have contributed to. So if you have commented on somebody's post in the community section of Studio One Plus and somebody likes that or replies to it, you will now see these in here, which is useful if you are working with people either collaboratively or you are making a thread where you're discussing a piece that they have worked on, that they have presented to the community, and you want to be able to kind of keep tabs on that without having to necessarily log in to Studio One Plus and go to the community tab. You can do that all from now inside of Studio One, or at least you can certainly see the notifications. And then that will remind you, hey, I should go and check that out. So that's not entirely sexy, but it's useful. So community notifications will appear automatically in here. You don't have to do anything. They will just appear. So that is an addition to what notifications we already had, such as notifications about activity in your workspaces. So if you have contributed to something in a workspace, or you are part of a workspace and other people are doing things in that workspace, you get notifications of that activity, but now you also get activity to do with posts that you have made or posts that you have replied to or responded to in some way. And you'll see the little plus sign where that happens. For example, Grant here mentioned me in this post. So now I will go and actually look at this and answer his question. So it's dead easy. And I can see here that he liked what I'd posted previously. So this is a very nifty little feature. But like I said, not entirely sexy. All right, we'll move on and we'll come to the last of these features. And this has been asked for quite a bit, particularly by people with computers that are very, very powerful. They have lots of RAM, they have lots of CPU cores, and the CPU cores are very fast indeed. So they have a super duper powerful computer. And a lot of people have asked, hey, is there a way that we could actually turn off the dropout protection entirely? Well, now you can. So if I go on PC Studio One Options or on a Mac Studio One Preferences, and then I go to Audio Setup and I go onto the Processing tab here, you have the dropout protection. I have this set to minimum because I have a reasonably powerful computer. But I also like the Blue Z for hardware low latency monitoring as well. But if I click on this, now there is this off feature. So if I click on that, it will turn off the dropout protection entirely. And it will just basically be as if it didn't exist at all. So for people with very fast computers, this is a great option. If you don't have a fast computer, this is not really going to be an option that is a good idea for you. If you have limited cores, like for example, you only have a quad core i5, and you only have 8 gigs of RAM, then this is not necessarily the best option for you to be using. But it is here nonetheless for you guys who are using much more powerful computers. So feel free to turn off the dropout protection if you prefer to. And I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to do that. All right, folks. I hope you have found this video useful and informative. As I said, there is going to be an accompanying live stream where we will go through some more of the new features in Studio One 6.2, and we will also take a look at Studio One Plus. That will be at 6 p.m. Central Time tonight. So I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible then. Please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button as well. And also hit the notification bell and select all notifications. That way you'll get the notification about tonight's show and also my Songwriting Simplified show on Wednesday, where we'll be looking more at Studio One 6.2 as well. And of course, Studio One Plus, and, you know, keeping people abreast of the workspaces, features, and that kind of thing. Not that there's been anything new added to that, by the way, but just making sure that everybody's familiar with the new developments, with the UI and the new branding. All right, folks, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.